le scale.
Before COVID-19 spoilt it for all of us, I used to love travelling carefree across Europe to discover in particular its geographical quirks and quirky forms of transport. In early 2019, I was very excited then to learn about a rather unique tramway in the northeasterly Italian city of Trieste. The Trieste Opicina tramway begins from the centre of Trieste as a conventional electric tram. But as the climb up the surrounding hills to Villa Opicina becomes too much for the tram car alone, it picks up a purpose-built cable tractor along the way to give it that extra push and effectively turns itself into a funicular railway. I immediately made plans to go to Italy to see this hybrid tramway for myself. However, it wasn't until I got to Trieste and had been waiting for some time at the terminus tram stop without any sign of a tram coming along that I discovered there had been a major collision along the line in August 2016. And since then, the tramway has not been running. The replacement bus service wasn't really any consolation, but what was the sight of some of the tram cars and even one of the tractors parked up along the line in all their splendour. The surprisingly good condition and the staged layout of the vehicles at choice locations along the line made me wonder whether the route had now become an outdoor heritage museum and that there were no intentions of running the service ever again. I did hear that there were plans to start the tram service again in March 2020, but we all know what happened in Italy then. So relaunching a tram service after the devastating effects of a coronavirus to the country is probably low on the list of Italian priorities at present. But whether by tram or not in the future, a trip to Opicina is still worth the journey, just for the curiosity opposite the landmark obelisk alone. Hidden behind the growth is what's left of the Lacunda Dano, later renamed the Hotel Obelisco. It is here that Sir Richard Burton, no, not the famous actor, but the Victorian explorer, diplomat and linguist, spent his later summers translating into the English versions we still use today the Arabian Nights, the Perfume Garden, and the Kama Sutra. Burton is not the only cultural celebrity linked to and honoured by Trieste. Affectionate homages to local heroes and famous sons are found all across the city. Arguably the most recognisable of these individuals on a global scale is the Irish author and poet James Joyce. Joyce first arrived in Trieste, then part of Austro-Hungary, in 1904. During the 16 years he predominantly spent here, Joyce worked on what were to become his most celebrated pieces of work: a portrait of the artist as a young man, Dubliners and Ulysses. For anyone upon arrival in Trieste who didn't already know of Joyce's connection with the city, one doesn't have to go far to find evidence of it, as Trieste is clearly very proud indeed of its adopted literary son, with pubs and bars and even streets named after him, and even a dedicated museum to the man, albeit a very small one, with a selection of related books and a few mementos linked to the author. As well as a rich cultural history, Trieste is also blessed with an abundance of some beautifully preserved Roman ruins, including the fairly complete Riccardo Arch, believed to date back to 33 BC, and the stunning 2,000-year-old Roman theatre, built to accommodate up to 3,500 spectators and still hosts the odd outdoor performance today. Although most sites are free and accessible to visit across the city, one wonders how preserved some sites are, with structures appearing to now double as car park bollards. Those lucky enough to be enclosed for protection and ongoing excavation are apparently open to the public on occasion, but when is anyone's guess. Just a few kilometres outside the city is the grand Castello di Miramare. A short trip on the train to the aptly named station of Miramare, then a wander around the surrounding forest with only one sense of direction to reach the desired destination, as there are few signs around to guide one there, will eventually, one hopes, lead to the neo-Gothic castle. It was built in the 1850s by the Austrian Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian, who later became the Emperor of Mexico, but was shot only 3 years later when Republican rule was re-established there. Maximilian was a keen botanist, and over 20 hectares of manicured gardens full of exotic trees and plants, as well as some enchanting outbuildings, surround the cliff-edge castle, giving plenty of space for future visitors to maintain social distancing. Back in the city, and before heading back to the airport, I gave myself some time to play on this line of latitude that runs through Piazza della Borsa. Thankfully, the instructions were available in English, as it took me a while to work out where exactly I needed to stand to tell the time here. The date was nearing the end of April that day, or in this case the end of Aries, a few days after the 20th of the 4th month indicated here. Maybe I should have shuffled up a tad more along the latitude line to be more precise with the date, but I'm content that my attempt at being a sundial was fairly successful that day, with my watch being on European summertime and exactly 1 hour ahead of my solar hour shadow. Such a shame my sun hat hadn't been a bit more pointy, so my impression of a clock hand would have been more realistic.